Well, the Union Buildings in Pretoria has been a hive of activity over the past few days, with preparations for the inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa later on today. Let's join our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena, and our political news editor, Mzwandile Mbeje, for a preview of what to expect from today.
Good morning, Leon. Yes, indeed, we are coming live here at the Union Buildings in Pretoria ahead of the inauguration of the President of the Republic of South Africa. It was 30 years ago where many people converged at this amphitheater at the Union Buildings when the first democratically elected President of the Republic of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, was sworn in. And again, we are here 30 years on. The seventh administration will start with work and the president will lead that administration. But looking back at that moment when Madiba took oath of office here at the Union Buildings, many dignitaries from around the world converged to witness that important moment in the history of the African continent when the oldest liberation organization in the world and also on the continent had won elections. But at that moment, Nelson Mandela took a decision that in terms of forming a government or the first administration, he was going to be very inclusive. I'm joined by Mzwandile Mbeje, my colleague, the political editor at the SABC. Mzwandile, 30 years on, we are here. Let's look at President Cyril Ramaphosa. Inauguration here in Pretoria 5 years ago, but not at the Union Buildings.
Well, a very good morning to you, Sophie, and the viewers. Indeed, as you've correctly characterized the period that we're coming from 30 years ago, and interestingly, the very same Cyril Ramaphosa, the president that we are installing today as a country, was central in some of those negotiations to craft this kind of a democratic dispensation we're having now. And of course, then there was Government of National Unity that Madiba led, and fast track to 2024. We are also faced with a situation of a government of national unity under totally different circumstances, because our democracy is maturing, and then we had the president in the last 5 years inaugurated, promising a number of things, and somehow along the way certain things didn't go out the way he had hoped for, and some say these are the results of what could have happened.
Let's look at the biggest issue during his tenure, the issue of COVID-19. In terms of what he promised the nation, was it a stumbling block, and how did that had an impact in his work?
I think, Sophie, the COVID-19, I mean, we can't, not only did it affect South Africa, it actually affected the entire globe. And that's why even today, some companies are struggling because of that. I mean, the way of life has changed completely, and some companies shut down completely. So it did somehow affect. But I think what was a big really issue during this administration is the issue perhaps which may have also led to the ANC dipping so below 50%. Of course, not ruling out the internal factors, but the issue of failing to resolve load shedding was really a big deal, because I think people kept complaining about that. So those are some of the issues. COVID-19 was a big factor, and then of course internal factors and things like load shedding.
The economy and the issue of unemployment, young people who are saying we are not employed, as we wrap up.
That is the key. South Africa is one, particularly on the continent, is one of the countries really that has the highest unemployment, particularly when it relates to young people. So this administration, the seventh administration, which will include a number of parties, will have to come up with strategies that will craft plans really to tackle this problem. Because if it goes unresolved, it's likely to pose an even bigger problem going forward. But of course, we know that they are aware of the challenges at hand. So it's up to them what they do about it.
And finally, what can we expect in terms of his speech? Challenging times, government of national unity, working together. We saw what happened last night between Fikile Mbalula and Helen Zille.
His negotiating skills of 1994 will have to come to the fore. His leadership to put these ones together will have to come to the fore, because without that, the marriage could collapse before it could even start. But we hope, given that it is his last term, he'll be able to bind everyone together.
Well, of course, he's got nothing to lose. This is his last term as the president of the ANC. This is his last term as the president of the Republic, and therefore, this is a moment to take those tough decisions to ensure that the country is back on track.